And I think first, just really briefly for the public, since we have FACT TV here and we always appreciate their being here. Let me ask the board members and those others with us to introduce yourselves.
I'm Margie Ferry, Westminster Board.
I'm Charlie Hutchinson, Vice Chair of Westminster Board.
All right, I'm Cheryl Charles, Chair of the Westminster Board.
Andy Haas, Superintendent of Schools.
Team BLC, Westminster Board.
Jim Bazina, Finance.
All right, well, thanks to everybody for being here, and Karen Blanchard, board member, is traveling tonight, but sends everybody her best. First item of business, any adjustments to the agenda?
Yeah, we'd like to just remove 7D right now. By letter of agreement, just. I don't think we got a little ahead of ourselves.
Perfect, that's just any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay, let's then call for any issues and public comment. We have a member of the public. Let's see whether that member of the public would like to make a comment. Welcome.
Hi, Dee, can you hear us?
He's on.
Okay.
We're open to hearing any comments from the members of the public. This is the time for those normally. We'll pause for a minute to see if anybody would like to. And otherwise, we'll go ahead. We'll just proceed. The next item of business is to review and approve the minutes. We have actually two sets of minutes, one being the last full and regular board meeting, and the other from our meeting focused as a committee really on buildings and grounds and the uses of the surplus funds. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
All right, let's get those dates. Actually, I didn't pull up the dates. I read the minutes today, but if you can see which minutes those are.
Yes. So you've got Thursday, April 6th. And Thursday, April 20th. Charlie is on the ball.
So a motion on the floor, was there, you made the motion to approve the minutes of April 6th and of April 20th. Were there any corrections? Changes? All right. Hearing none, I think we can do a voice vote because all of us are here in person who are voting tonight. So all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passed unanimously. The minutes of April 6th and April 20th. And that leads us quickly to a report from our Director of Finance. Thank you.
One extra one in there, if you need one for more number.
Bless you. Oh,
Bless you.
I see it.
Excuse
My
me.
goodness. Oh dear.
Right, it's that tickle. That's all it was.
So, on page 1. Gives you the summary of the functions, and I just want to say, really hasn't changed. As we projected at the last meeting for finance review, we had about $450,000 plus tuition monies that were collected. And so you've almost got $500,000 of available resources as we go forward into the next fiscal year. So that has not changed much, but just on page 2, I just wanna reference some items. And incidentally, I tweaked this just today. I put in the row numbers so we could easily find now when I reference something, and I'm looking at row 6, which is substitutes. Now, with the substitutes, we collect the substitute cost now in the SU, unfortunately. So we've got about 13,000 that's in there for Westminster that will end up in this account. And so it's just what will happen at the end of the year.
A question about that, Jim. It says 29,000 available. If I'm reading the right line.
Well, yes, there is 29,000 available, but all I'm saying is what's gonna happen
Mhm.
is in the encumberment where it shows nothing.
Right.
It will end up,
Huh.
end up being a cost that will work in there as an expense event.
So you're projecting that the remainder will be about 13.
Yes,
Okay.
so it'll be
Mhm.
13 plus the 7,600
Mhm.
that's in there.
Mhm.
And it just, in regular education, line 8, health insurance, again, there's 50,000. It's tough to know whether that was a projection, anomaly, or whether there were people that transitioned out, because there was a number of changes last year. And again, when you're going from family to a single, wow, big dollars difference.
Right.
So anyways, we have $50,000 there. Line 24, which is 504 services, contracted services. We had 110,000, and it looks like we've got 63 available. So that's a big one. Tuition, and there was no budget amounts, and this must be either for Compass or one of the other ones, but we're over by 105,000. So
We knew that.
yes, yes.
Just so I understand, but what is the previous line referred to then? That's, I think, the private.
Early education.
Was that early, beg your pardon?
Yeah.
Right.
The one, so line 29?
And the reason there was no budget, that's just because back in the day, all those mistakes got made, is that still part of that same mess?
Yes, it is, but I won't take a lot of time, but,
Mhm.
page 3, I'm looking at line 47. Now, sped excess cost. Now, you certainly don't run into that at the middle school here. And I'm not sure, can the other schools like Compass and the other one that we use, do they service special ed students, can they?
They have to, so we have to, as the LEA, we have to provide services. Some schools, so Compass has a special educator on staff, so we get billed. As an SU, we get billed for those services. So a 7th and 8th grader coming from here that may have an IEP, there would be a charge for that.
So that's all the more reason to continue that pot in the future, just in case for budgeting purposes, because you may end up getting hit with some charges at some time.
We'd actually taken it out of next year's budget.
No,
We did at one point.
well, I suggested it,
Uh-huh.
and Liz said, no, she says that sometimes I use that.
She did tell me that as well, so
Yeah.
it ended up being put back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she said that occasionally the supervisory union, because of somebody that bills you, I guess, in turn bills us back, and she was surprised by it. So,
I
okay,
haven't
thank
seen
you.
any yet, but
Thank you. So it is back in.
yeah,
So just to follow up, so that 20 grand, the available balance is not secure, and it's gonna get charged against us back at some point. There must have been some services charged during this school year, surely.
It may not be.
no, I don't think we did last year.
We
as
didn't.
well.
That's why
So-
you raised it as a possible.
Not because if there are no students who go to that school who have special education services, then they would use
There's
that.
lots of kids with special education needs at that school, so they're not billing us?
At Compass?
Well, it all, so they may. So there's a couple of ways this happens, so they may charge us and send an invoice when they send the invoice, that's part of it, right? The second, it may come in and it may go right directly to special education, and so then it may need to then get charged to Westminster. It's not a direct charge. And so, I've started a conversation with Stacy just about like future and haven't brought Jim into it yet of how can we maybe make this a little cleaner and easier. And I think infinite visions will help, but I think also just how can we do this a little, so that everyone sees, so the money moves faster, because it's just, it's that kind of a lag, and we may not know all the time. Or you may have a student who begins at a private institution as a regular ed student, but then concerns are raised, they go through the process and are identified while they're there, and then they need services. As an LEA, we're responsible for providing those services.
It's also possible they're servicing kids without having a 501, without having an IEP or whatever, and just making up the whatever deficit they see without.
But you wouldn't be charged, you wouldn't be charged for that, so you'd only be charged for services that you're responsible.
That's agreed,
Yeah.
so that's probably why, partly why we're not seeing charges. Because they maybe just, you know, folding it into their regular program.
We have a very good relationship with Compass, and they are very vigilant about getting the dollars that they need. And so they're usually really good about invoicing us so that we can, so that they can get monies. So if they're servicing someone, I think we would.
Okay.
So it just may possibly be that there isn't someone there, so. Those,
What if there's a person who is going to grammar school, for instance, they don't have special ed? You provide.
we have to, so you go on,
No.
they don't come over here, but there's, I've been out for 2 years now, so I've lost all the lingos, but they moved to they moved to a different type of a service plan. But we are still responsible for providing services at times. So we'll send, a lot of times it's speech, that tends to be the most typical that we get asked to provide services for. So we will send a speech pathologist to the student.
Jim, want to go ahead?
Okay, so I'm looking at line 64, which is guidance services. And I think this was for contracted services of psychological services, maybe if it's needed. Most of this would be for a regular ed student that, if they're overloaded in some way, they get services.
So like, just as Jim saying, that there could be services that could be, if any assessments need to be done for a student who's not actually going through a special ed process, or it could be for like a behavior interventionist through HCRS that a student may call for. So those are typically what hits that line.
What is it budgeted? There's no budget line, if I'm looking at the right one.
30,000?
30,064.
Well, I don't have that version.
Oh, sorry. So line 64, 30,000 was budgeted and nothing's been touched in that line.
Okay, thank you. I see it.
I just want to say, you would probably continue that because, again, I think oftentimes, even elementary schools need that resource. So.
Okay.
I'm looking at page 5 and I'm on the lines 131 and 132.
I'm gonna get that other version with
Here,
the
here.
numbers since I was.
Oh.
We added the fancy left hand column numbers.
Okay,
thank you.
So this was just, you'll notice on 131, it's listed as communication. Well, this is under technology and really, it's not communications. This is internet subscriptions. This is what our internet cost. And that's what's being charged there. So I just pointed out there. And I just will say on page 6, line 146, which is the contingency fund. That's the $46,000 of money that the board put in the page. There was some overages. And I think on page 8, there's 207 on page 8, which is capital projects. There's $10,000 in there. And I don't know what projects we're going to be doing this summer, but I mean, there should be something that 10,000 can go to.
So typically, many of the schools have operated where they set 10,000 aside for like painting project, like that kind of a project as opposed to it's more of a contingency if something goes oops
Yep.
or something.
And if Liz was here tonight, I would say to her, we probably should encumber that.
Yeah.
So we'll have it to expend. The other thing I will say on line 214, electricity. Well, we got $367 remaining. So we're probably gonna run out of gas on that line. We'll be a little bit over.
Well, the days are getting longer. So.
Yeah,
Sun's
Um,
supposed to be coming out.
That's about it. But I gotta tell you, I think you're in a remarkable position.
We don't take it for
And
granted.
back
Gotta
up
be
a second,
careful.
Yeah.
Lines 69 and 70 in the next few. So health services teachers, nothing budgeted, down 59,000. Then the next line is technical professional health services, 57,000 budgeted, nothing spent.
Yep.
What, can you tell me what that means?
Yes, so what happened was, on page 4. On page 4, you'll see. And I'm looking at line 70,
Mhm,
object code 5171.
mhm.
That's where they put the budget amount, because it was budgeted for teachers. And again, this was confusing to me, but anyways, they had a 5171 for guidance, nurses and art or other teachers. And so the actual, when they're running payroll, it's hitting this line 69, which is a 5111, which is what next year you'll see for anybody that's a licensed teacher. So it should net out close to what it was supposed to be.
Except that we're already down, so it'll get a bit more down by the end of the school year, won't it?
Yes,
But not a whole lot, you know.
yep, you will.
Yeah.
So, and it could be, Charlie, what I think happened, it's only because of a swap of a person in that position.
Right.
So if you brought somebody a little bit more expensive, that's why.
But we're okay.
Yep, yeah.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay, then one small housekeeping thing on page 1 is to, I think, substitute the word Rockingham for the word Westminster at the bottom of the page.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Good
catch.
you sure that wasn't like that last?
It
last
was,
one?
it's been this way for a while, I just haven't read it yet.
All right, I will take care of that and get it fixed.
Thank you, perfect.
I have one last item that are just quickly, not to hold you up, but I just wanna. So. We were trying to balance out to the audit
Mhm.
and so we walked in. And where it made it really difficult is you had two entities. Blackton and then Westminster who separated.
Mhm.
There's an amount of money from 22 audit, which is a two, and at some point in time, we'll have to have the board approve with the auditors, going over the audit for last year. But there's an amount of $2,372,995. And that's what we have to back into. That's what's available. And really that sum is available from way back 2019. So it's kind of splitting that. And I just want to tell you, essentially, I think it was split on like a 25.5 and a 74.5. That's the split. So this sheet shows how you expended that monies. And the wrinkle for last year was under 22, we had a projection. And I didn't understand that was a projection, but Hardy told me, he says, we didn't have the finished number.
Correct.
Because we had a 608, I think, at the time that we used.
Mhm.
So it ended up being 717,689 which gives you at the end, the bottom, it gives you $8,600 to the good with all of the, and this is, we're gonna put into an account 1.3 million for the reserve funds. And that will be earning interest. Be separated, so, and again, I will say, you're in a great position because once we separate the SU balance, you'll end up with 200 plus with that,
Correct.
so.
So where's the 1.3 million come from?
The
The 1.3 you're gonna put into.
Oh, the one, so the 1.3, and I mean, this is over on the bottom right. You got tuition reserves of 285, 860. You got learning environments, 245,
Okay,
and capital and repairs reserve for 790.
I see, that's 1.3 now, okay.
So,
The, all the way from the 2019 balance, we've not spent that money yet. We've just allocated it.
correct.
That I wanted to be sure, yeah,
That's what's going into the reserve. and-
correct. That's
and
part of
that's
what's
why
going
it's
into the
so
reserve.
Critical that we got it split right
Uh-huh.
and right to the dollar, so.
Well done.
Wow.
I mean, I saw you the other day and you were just going, I can't get this to balance
Oh,
yet.
man, was a tough one.
Well done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Jim about this then? Okay. That's excellent. So you tell us when we need to put on the agenda the approval of the audit.
We'll leave it to our superintendent.
Okay,
Work that in.
and we might even time it around the time when the SU audit is final and do it at the same time potentially if that works.
We can definitely.
Okay, with that, it's time for the principal's report.
All right.
Excuse Jim.
Yeah. Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, team.
So, as we noted it earlier at the beginning of the, meeting, Liz is, off with, some of our students up at Springfield. They, did a collaborative, music, piece where, group of students from Springfield and groups of kids, I think fourth grade, right? Yeah,
Mhm, fourth
and
and-
fourth and fifth?
I
is it?
think maybe fifth.
Okay. But they've been collaborating. So Springfield's been coming down here and they've been practicing and we've sent kids up there and practice. So that's tonight. So Liz is up there, representing us up there. So she asked me to do her report. I'll do my best. I forgot my red wig, as I said, but the average daily attendance for the past 30 days has been 94%. VCAP, which is the new state assessment, grades 3 through 6, just finished up the assessment. And this is the standardized test taking, replacing SBAC.
For the whole thing?
Yep, they're completed, yeah. So students completed math and ELA portions, and we expect to receive those results from the state by fall. Fifth graders are scheduled to take the science portion, May 16th and 17th.
Why
So,
does it take so long when they've taken them in the spring to wait all the way until the fall?
this is, I had heard a rumor that it would be fall, and this is the first time I've seen it in print. I have actually not, I
Usually,
personally have not heard anything. So,
When you give them, they usually get, when it was SBAC anyway, you'd get them back pretty quickly, but then the state has to verify them to
Mhm.
make sure that the scores are actually.
so it's plausible being a first year that might be part of the delay. I think that's being generous with the whole rollout and everything. Everything's been delayed, so I kind of chalk it up to that. I think that it's the state has a lot of opportunity for growth in this area.
Mhm.
So
As a tool to be helpful when working with students, that would be so.
It's not a helpful tool to work with students
Yeah.
anyway.
so
Yeah,
so
let's
one
say that.
I'll editorialize in here. But I'll editorialize a little bit in here. So as a staff, with all the principals, and central office administration, we've been really starting to dive into data and look back. And our SBAC data is now locked. We can't even get it. So, and we kind of knew this was going to happen. We tried to do a dump and we got some of it, but we couldn't get all of it. And so we're really, as we're looking at our continuous improvement plans, a lot of our goals were set around SBAC data. And so we're really shifting over to our maps or our
For the public, please.
NWEA. So that's the Northwest Educational Association MAPS. I don't actually know what that acronym stands
But part
for.
of the story is that we had a
Annual
previous system
progress.
that we were calling SBAC. We're not using it anymore.
Yeah,
And
so-
you don't have access to that data.
Yeah, so SBAC was the state, the state mandated assessment required by federal law. And the state every 3 years goes out for a new contract. And so Cognia is the new test company, won the bid, which is what VCAP is. That's their test, the equivalent. And so when they did away with the SBAC contract, we had a window of opportunity to still look at our data. It was unclear if it was going to get locked out, and then it ended up getting locked out. And so we don't have access to that past data. We have the data like you might see on a website or something like that, but we don't have the ability to go in and disaggregate that data anymore. So when we say locked out, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We can't pull it and make our graphs and stuff. So we are in year 4 of working on the maps, and that's an assessment we give 3 times a year. We give it in the fall, winter, and spring. And maps gives a RIT score, which again, I apologize, I don't know what actually a RIT score stands for. I used to know, but it's like a readiness score. So it's a projection of where a student should have or has the ability to learn. And and when you look at maps data and their projection, it is closely aligned and a very good predictor of how students should fare on standardized testing. And when we were looking at some of our previous SBAC data that we had and looking at our maps data, you can actually see the alignment. And so you take maps in the winter and it's saying that 33% of our students are proficient. And then we look at the SBAC data from that year and it's like 32 or 34% of our students are proficient. So it does align very nicely. And so because we can't take SBAC and we know that the VCAP data, because of how the rollout has been, may not be a true reflection of our students' abilities, we're really moving our continuous improvement plan to really focus on our MAPS data and use that as indicators that we can measure against, because it has been consistent with us for the last 4 years, and we're going to continue on with that. So we won't have the disruption of a new, if the state gets a new contract with a different vendor. So. So after school program, there's going to be a play being put on by the after school program here. Why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears.
They just put it on. Yes, it
Oh.
happened. Mhm.
Was recently, okay, I apologize. So it was recently put on.
Did you see it?
I did not see it, but I heard it was very.
I didn't either.
Virginia was devastated that she hadn't been in after school program so that she could be in it.
But she got to watch it.
Did she?
Well, she
Maybe
would
the
have, yeah,
next
they
time.
put it on for the students.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
If she was in after school, all the way during the school day?
Right, it was during.
Yeah. So one of the pieces we've worked, Sarah Dorn, who's our after school program director, has worked is a collaboration with Main Street Arts. And so they have a club here, and the students were able to participate in various roles, including acting and set design. Students performed the play last Thursday during the day for students and staff, and then again after school for families. Biking club starts this week as one of the options for the after school program. Bike week, not Sturgis, but here at Westminster. A local motion from Burlington will be dropping off their bike trailer on May 7th. The bikes will be available for 2 weeks. Students will use their PE classes to learn how to ride, proper hand signals, and how to be safe while riding on the road. WCS does have a number of bikes in our bike shed that students are able to use during recess and after school. The WCS Springfield collaboration, which we talked about just at the beginning of this, our music teacher, Danielle St. Amon, collaborated with music teachers at Union Street School in Springfield to provide an additional performance opportunity for a number of 4th and 5th graders who were interested. Students from Springfield came down here last Friday for a rehearsal, and our students went up to Springfield this morning for an additional rehearsal, and then tonight they're involved at a performance at Union Street Arts Night. The spring concert will be held on May 25th at 6:30, and students have been working to solidify their performances and can't wait to show off. There will be 2 kindergarten play nights this spring, one on May 11th, and the other one is June 1st. Both are at 5:30. This is an opportunity for incoming kindergarten students to come into the building, see the classrooms, meet the staff. Families play in the classroom for a half an hour, and then everyone is welcome in the dining room for a pizza dinner. Registration paperwork was sent out this past Monday. And while they have not received any return paperwork at this point, they're expecting 17 kindergartners next year. So if you have those pieces of paper, it'd be great to get them back in. The school here welcomed Mark, will welcome, pardon me, Mark, I'm going to butcher that name.
Can you tell us how you say it?
Radney's.
Ragnes.
Ragonese. Yeah.
Ragonese.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mark Ragonese on May 30th, 31st, and June 2nd. He will work with students in grades K through 6 to create a community art piece that will be displayed in the garden. And we are excited to see what our students create. And thanks to PG Troy Wonderly, we'll be joining WCS the week of June 5th. And that's for a circus residency. Students will, in grades K through 6, will have an opportunity to learn various circus acts. And they will host a whole school performance on Friday, June 9th at 1:30. And dates to remember is June 20th at 6:30 is the 6th grade success night. And June 21st is field day. And then I'll hold off on that, Leslie.
It's just a day of fun and wonderfulness at the very end of the year.
Kind of an end of the year celebration, and
3-legged races. and
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
so, and that is Liz's report.
Well, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Do my best.
Pretty exciting. I am thrilled that the circus residency is going to happen and that the parent teachers group is paying for that.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. And Mark is such a talented artist. It's really cool that he's gonna come and do that with it.
I know my own kids just, in another state, have had those same opportunities, and it's just, they still go back and, like there's one at the entrance of the school where there's a whole copper or metal, like kind of art piece that's made that's above the entrance to the school that spells out the school's name and has different things, and they still talk about, I hammered that, so I think all those things are really cool and memorable.
So this will be made out of natural materials and it won't last forever like that.
Well,
But it'll still be.
it'll be there for years, so.
Yeah, it'll be fabulous. All right, well, thank you for the principal
Sure.
report. So on to new business for discussion and action. And the first of those is a proposal to appoint the new school counselor here, the guidance counselor here, and Liz does have a recommendation.
Yep, that recommendation is for Jenny Perry to fill the role of school counselor for FY 24. Just as a reminder, you granted Claire, yeah, thank you, a year leave of absence, and so Jeannie was very interested in looking at that opportunity, and so you know, for 22 years, she's taught here at WCS. And, you know, she's very strong in relationship and community building. A lot of enthusiasm that'll benefit the whole school.
So are we also, do we need to also grant Jenny a 1-year leave of absence from her classroom position?
So while that's not there, I mean, a lot of it is technically, yes,
Right, because I mean,
Yes.
it would be a tragedy
yes.
if Jenny was not, I mean, she's.
I know she didn't,
excellent,
she
right?
didn't actually send one in and apply for it, but technically, it would be appropriate to, grant her a year leave of absence, so she has the ability that, you know, because Claire has the intention of coming back, so then Jeannie has a place to go. Yes, Jenny, pardon me.
You're tired today.
I am.
So would we do both those things tonight?
You could make a motion to. do
I would
that.
like to make a motion, if Jenny would like us to, I think she's here at the meeting, would like us to grant her a 1-year leave of absence from her position before we approve her for the position, just so that she has that.
I am here. May I speak?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
hi,
ma'am.
everybody. All right. Hey, here, I'll put my video on. Thank you. I did submit a year leave of absence request to Liz last week or the week before. I think it was last week.
All right.
So that should be in the process, or it should be somewhere to be able to take for consideration.
Okay.
So yes, if that could be done, that would be much
But then
appreciated.
it didn't hit my desk, and I apologize for that, but
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that I hopped on to let you know that it has been initiated anyway.
That's perfect. Well, stay with us, Jenny, and let's go ahead
yeah.
and take motions. You go ahead, team.
I'd like to make the motion to grant Jenny Perry a 1-year leave of absence from her role as classroom teacher at Westminster Center School. That's pretty good. I'm getting better at making motions.
Yes.
I just wanted to- Thank you.
yeah.
Well, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right, entertain a new motion to recommend, to approve the appointment of Jenny Perry as the school counselor for the fiscal year 24 school year.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, again, unanimous. And Jenny, I just want to say you're such a good teacher. If this turns out to be kind of a refreshing, interesting year for you, we're as ever grateful and look forward. Thank you very much for stepping in this way. And now we need an outstanding 3rd grade teacher or another elementary teacher. We need 2. That's right.
Yeah.
And Liz has been interviewed. We weren't ready to bring a name tonight. We were really trying to get a name, you know, get some folks here tonight, but I think she's got some candidates she's very excited about. So I think seems like the stars are starting to align here.
Very
So,
good.
you
Well,
know.
we can let you go, Jenny, but it's just to say thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for all your service. Thank you for the good work.
Thank you all so much. It's really an honor, and I'm excited. I do not have a hankering to get out of the classroom. I love the classroom, and I'm at peace with this being a 1-year position or potentially more. I just am excited to serve the community in a different role, and thank you for your flexibility with that and support. And I look forward to the remainder of the year and next year's adventure. So thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that if I could just add in, just looking at one of the things as I look forward is finding ways that we can create programming to foster if an individual is interested in expanding their tool bag and experiences, that there are those opportunities, because I think, having someone have the opportunity to step out of a classroom and do something else and make a decision. Yeah, this is what I want to do, or no, I want to go back in my classroom. It's always a benefit, I think, to us as a whole. So.
Very good. All right, the next item on the agenda is the conflict of interest policy. And actually, I suggested to Andy that we put this on the agenda. I have a question for you, Andy. In other boards that I serve on, board members actually sign the conflict of interest policy on an annual basis. Do we have that policy here? I don't remember ever doing that.
So it hasn't, since I've come on, we haven't done a here, sign this. We did, pull one out this year, and we have one, that we were going to present on May 17th. For all, because that was an all board meeting,
Right.
with some training, involved, but, just the way it kind of come out this year, I didn't think it was appropriate because it was one board, and I really think it's all boards should sign that. I think it's a positive thing. And just helps us all remember, what our roles are and what our responsibilities.
Well, let's just deepen the conversation for a minute. I just encourage everybody to read it, but also to read all our policies. We go through the process of approving them on a regular basis. Some are required by the state, others are specific to our own circumstances. I think Westminster may be the only one that has the policy about requesting to attend, and that doesn't show up yet on the website, so we can come back to that. But at any rate, in discussions with Andy, as we look at supervisory union wide, the recommendation had been made by a number of people that we have council come in and talk to all of the board members about roles and responsibilities of board members. And so that's now scheduled for May 17th.
Right.
It's a normal Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union board meeting, but Andy will be encouraging all boards to come. And as a part of that evening, we will have a presentation and a discussion by Sean Toohey, one of our attorneys, and one of the topics will be conflict of interest. And one of the reasons that I personally think it's important to include that is because of lack of clarity on the part of people throughout the district about what really constitutes a conflict of interest and what doesn't. So it's just kind of a professional development opportunity for everyone, and this will be one part of that on May 17th. So I just encourage everybody to read it, and then we have, not that I'm concerned, by the way, I just think it's good practice.
No,
that's really.
I agree with you. I think it's those, I sometimes joke about it a little bit, but channeling my inner, Chris Kibbe, because it's Mr. Kibbe who has constantly reminded me, go back and read the policy. So if there's a question that someone poses a question to me, it was one of the, as I was coming on last year, it was one of the things he said, always go back and just say, let me go look at the policy. Let me go look at, our CBA. And it's, you don't always get the answer you maybe always want, or the person wants to hear, but this is what governs, those policies are what govern what we do. And so I agree, taking the time to read through them. But that's how we try to do it. So if a principal asks me a question, I will, hey, let's pull up the policy together and let's read through it and make sure we're on the same page.
And with respect to the policies on the website, the staff is still working to reorganize those. We've got some that are not as current as others. And so you've got a process to make that easier for board members to figure out.
Yeah, so what happened was at some point, the Vermont School Boards Association updated many of their policies, but they also updated how they numerate policies. So let's say A was like board policies, and they changed A to be student or something like that. So that kind of threw us in flux as we were going through them. We've gotten counsel that we can just, that's an easy fix. We don't have to go back and redo all our policies as we did it because we're not changing the language, we're just changing numeration. But because we've only changed the required ones, because that's what we started working on, where we're updating the required ones. We're still in this where we have the old system and the old numeration, and then the new system and the new numeration. And so we needed to get the approved policies up. So when you go to our website, you look at this policy, actually right at the top, it says newly adopted policies, but not yet organized. And so if you click on that, you get our newest ones, and then below that is the old numeration. And so this summer, it's a summer project of
Okay.
really sitting down and doing the crossover. And so that is a task we're looking forward to.
Well, that's helpful because I went through all of them and didn't realize I really should only be looking at the ones at the top that are yet to be reorganized. So that's
Well, no,
helpful.
because there are some that are down below
That
that
are-
are the recommended, or maybe some that
Okay.
have been, that are very school specific, that have been adopted years ago.
Okay,
So it's just taking those and getting them. Again, a lot of it is the numeration. And then it's the numeration, and then there's what we've been working on is also branding, so that it's got WNESU on it, or it's got if it's a Westminster specific, it says Westminster on it, so.
questions?
Going back to the meeting on the 17th,
Mhm.
what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
All right,
And it's going to be at the middle school. This is
Correct.
new information for us.
okay.
As of this evening, it's going to
Yep,
be at
so
the middle school. Go ahead.
the high school has their annual scholarship night, which is it's an interview night for our seniors. And it's pretty well orchestrated by the high school, where they bring in the different folks who represent the actual scholarships and interview the students. And so they spread them out throughout the whole building. And we don't want to disrupt that, because our community is extremely generous they give out over $200,000 in scholarship every year. So we've asked the middle school if we could relocate there. They've been very convenient. We're still looking at a couple different spaces. We want to make sure we can accommodate everybody, so.
And so it's a normal WNESU board meeting, except that it includes this special presentation and discussion with council on roles and responsibilities of board members. And the same evening, there'll be your report. The discussion looks at a quarterly progress report,
Yep.
which is another part of what is built into our structure and your contract. And then thirdly, you had it scheduled already to have the Director of Innovation and Instruction talk with us that evening. So a focus on curriculum as well.
And it's part of the having at least 2 all board meetings yearly. And that kind of fell off to the wayside the last few years. COVID didn't help, and we want to get back into that. I think it helps build community. We're going to invite the principals, even though they won't give a report at this time, but we're going to invite them. And I think maybe even looking at the possibility of some others would be beneficial, so.
And then going back to the policies, we have policy meeting right?
We haven't, Priscilla Lambert, the chair, just had some family things that she's been dealing with, and so we felt that that was a little more important, so we pushed the policy meetings off a little bit, so.
That I'm hankering for policy meeting, but.
So all of that is to say that the May 17th meeting, as ever, open to the public, encouraged, except for the part about the board training, which will likely be an executive session. And so that will be in person and in an executive session, but with the remote access, at least by Zoom, for
Right.
those who need to participate that way, if they can't be there in person.
And will that be at the end of the meeting or at the?
About midway through, about 7 o'clock, I think we're trying to, just because also knowing the attorney in time,
Right.
just trying to, we're trying to see if we can get the attorney to come in person.
Mhm.
And I don't want the attorney to get down here, at 6 o'clock and sit around for
Right.
a bunch of times. And, so I want to tell them a specific time where we can kind of shoot for. So Cheryl and I were talking about 7 o'clock as trying to do that, so.
With him. Yeah.
One more question. What was the thing about micromanaging?
It's just at the recent high school meeting in the public session, there was discussion about micromanaging, with board members micromanaging, whether staff or whomever it might be. And that's a topic that could be discussed with council. What does it mean? That's back to roles and responsibilities of board members. Yep.
Thought about proposal, it's just made me think of this. Recently, I was approached by somebody who is a volunteer at the school, who was dissatisfied with the way the teacher was teaching in the school. I just want to tell this as a cautionary tale. So I absolutely refused to engage with her on the substance. I said, you need to go to the teacher or the principal and speak to, say whatever your suggestions are. Turned out this person negotiated a decent relationship with the teacher. It's all worked out fine, apparently. But I hadn't anticipated it because I happened to know this person through some other route. She thought I was going to be a conduit for her to air her grievances about the school.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because that's I think one of the challenging roles board members play is you have that access to community is to encourage and redirect them back to the proper administration to address their problems so that you can hear, but let them push it back to the principals so that they can address the issue.
That's a perfect example of roles and responsibilities. Thank you. That's a great example. I'm trying to sort that out. We do have a policy to review and approve, and is that one that was approved by the SU board? Certainly by the policy committee, or it wouldn't be coming to us now. C-15 on student conduct and discipline.
Yeah, I thought, did we approve that at the last?
At the SU?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe that you all actually approved it.
We
Here.
have not,
Right.
but I think Nicole suggested that it be on our agenda.
Yes. Yeah.
For us to also take action.
Correct. So what we've tried to do is because many of these policies are boilerplate that because they're required either by state law or federal law, that we try to get many of the policies just instead of having each board adopt a slightly different, it's just these are boilerplates we need, and so we tried to push them out that way so everyone's on the same page, everyone has those same ones, but then each district may have uniquenesses of where you have the requests for attendance policy.
But the idea would be, because one of the primary responsibilities of board members is to set policy. And we're saying that the SU has SU-wide policies, but individual buildings, because we're independent school districts, also have responsibility for approving policies. And that's why we do it in both places. I'm asking, I think that's why, that every independent school district does it. We wouldn't normally want one that's different from the supervisory union.
Correct. Like, so let's take the Title I. We need it to be able to secure federal funds and to be able to expend federal funds. And we wouldn't want it to be different for each district because that would create quite a bit of a challenge. With this one, with student conduct, the idea is that, the policy around student conduct is that we'll have a policy around student conduct and it'll be similar, but then each building
Right.
or district then creates their own procedures around it. And we work to have alignment across so that, students K through 4, there's a similar approach, but each building has its own uniquenesses. And so that then falls into the building principal to create that procedure around that, just enacting this policy. So
Being referred to in this policy as the plan, the principal in
Yes.
consultation with the staff will develop it as well.
Correct.
Discipline plan. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion that we approve.
The question, so, but in that plan, is that
We
what?
normally would have a motion on the floor and then we'd have the second.
Go ahead.
I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay.
To approve C-15 student conduct and discipline. And then that's fairly.
Okay, so there's definitions, weapon, school, child, knife. That's a very limited list of all the perils that students might pose in the school. Is there somewhere else where drugs and other behavior and this is fine?
So yes, so drugs are defined in another policy. Why I don't have that policy in front of me, I'm trying to find it real quick. But I don't have C15 in front of me, so I
Oh,
apologize.
C15 is
Yeah,
right
pardon me, so I can just look at it real
No
quick.
problem.
So, the,
Alcohol and drug abuse.
we also have, just so you know, we have like, we have a weapons policy on top of a student conduct policy. So, the reason why the definitions are in there is because that's how the required policy, it has those definitions in there. So we could define further if you wanted to, but, you know, the reason why those are defined is there's always a lot of, question around a weapon and what constitutes a weapon. School, the reason for that in there is to really define what is school, because a lot of times people will say, you know, it happened, where it says here, school grounds, facilities, school-sponsored events, and vehicles that transport students. So sometimes there's a challenge where someone will say, well, that's not a school-related issue because it happened at the bus stop. Well, the bus stop is actually part of the school, so it's defined that way. So it helps us and holds us accountable for what we're responsible for. Expulsion, that is a you know, a legal term, and a lot of times the reason it's in there is to help define what that is and remind people. And then knife, that honestly is really just a holdover from really long time ago, and just in required policies, they've never taken out knife, because we know now when bad things happen in schools, they tend to involve a more lethal weapon. But
Although students do still bring knives. to
they
school.
do, yeah, so I'm not discounting that, I'm just saying that it has, and the reason why it's also defined here is, you can see it's, used as a stabbing weapon. So technically, if I took a pencil and used it, then it now can be defined as a knife, defined as a weapon. Now we go back to our weapons policy. So it gives protection is really the reason why that's there, Charlie.
Oh, yes, it wasn't that I wanted any of this removed, but I was wondering how it got to be so limited.
You know what, there's not a drug and alcohol policy anymore. It says it was removed because it was deemed unnecessary.
I think it falls into another policy. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll,
You worked on that.
yeah, it's somewhere else. I just, so.
Okay, motion on the floor, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, that's passed unanimously, and we are down to director's comments. Pretty expeditious meeting.
That was a good explanation. Right,
Marty, anything?
Things seem to be going really well here. Thank you, Liz, even though you're not here, for all your work, the teachers, we've got,
Teacher Appreciation Week.
coming up next week, oh, isn't Peter doing the
during the
biking?
bike club, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, that's it.
Yes, nice quick, this meeting, sorry about the wait, this is still does a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well,
I'll bring my foot in.
gotta wake up better.
All right, Jane, anything?
No, this is like the final push of the year, so thanks for everyone for their hard work. The kids seem to be having a great year, so thanks. Great.
Oh, I've got to add one thing. One thing I noticed on the bus, the noise is always laughter. It's never,
Oh,
almost never meaningless. You know, it's a pain in the butt, but it's laughter. I'm just,
Could be worse things, right?
That is good,
so something good's happening here.
good.
that's what that, yeah. As a driver for the Westminster. Thank you. So I'll just add that, you know, next week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we've broadened it to all staff with intention. And so really do encourage the community to express your appreciation to all of the staff. And just know that even though it's called that, we really hold them in appreciation every day.
throughout the year. So with that, I think I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:03.
So moved.
All right.
Really, actually.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Precisely an hour.
How are we gonna go to bedtime at the house?
Thanks,
We don't
Santi.